Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is the news for Saturday the 16th of December. Now I'm doing my best Jay Motti impression. I'm in the house. I'm bringing you the news this morning. Somewhere in the world, all I will say is there's an Adam McCullough with a very sore head who owes me an apology. That's all I can say. But there'll be no more apologies because Ten Hag has come out swinging. He ain't apologising to anyone. We're also going to be looking at some transfer news as well. Some ins, but also a lot of outs. Potential January exodus on the way. And also, let's face it, we've got a big game tomorrow, haven't we? We'll get into a little bit of that. Ten Hag has been speaking to the media. Let's start off as we mean to go on then. Ten Hag does not fear his job. This is coming out of Forbes. He says, talking about let's be honest. If we lose to Liverpool, Jay keeps mentioning this. We've got West Ham and Villa after that. It's going to be some claret, rolling the streets of Manchester, let alone the claret and blue of West Ham and Villa, because blood might spill. I got there in the end. If Ten Hag loses those games. He says, there's no concern because I'm here to win. He said, I'm here to win and I have to make the team play better. I have to make them play good, but good is not good enough. That's something that he said a lot over the last 18 months. Good is not enough. Something that is reiterated over and over again. So I reckon that's probably something he says to the players as well. He says, now we're inconsistent, so I have to work on making the team play better for longer periods at a higher level. When asked if he still had the confidence of his players, he said, I feel that yes, they tell me they are behind me. He also says, but actually, that's fine. That is okay. I'm focusing on the process to make this team play better. I'm focusing on making the individuals better. That's my concern, and that is all I'm doing. I'm focusing on the right things, the team. And it just... It's a strange one, Ten Hag, because on one hand you can criticise his press conferences because they're often very cold, that he sort of lacks a little bit of, what would be the word, charisma maybe, there's not a lot of personality in there. But then also, if you look at what he's saying and the points that he's making, he's very praising of his players. He puts the blame on himself a lot. He'll mention injuries and stuff, but he never says the players let me down or things to that nature. And I think he's made a personal point, a particular point of not criticising the players where possible. He also says this: they're full of fight. We're full of fight. We're going to keep fighting. I'm going to make individuals better. We're all here. We're all behind. Like these sort of phrases of they're sort of empty really. And press conferences, they're hardly Ten Hag's private diaries, are they? Where I'm sure deep down the conversations he's having with his team, with his friends, with people around him, he's not quite as level-headed as you may be seeing in press conferences. But I like that we haven't got this manager who's coming out, losing his head, Jose Mourinho style toward the end, where you knew he was going to go because he just lost it in the press conferences. Ten Hag still holds himself with an air of, I'm the Manchester United manager and I'm going to be the Manchester United manager going forward, even if he's not. I like that he's doing that. We're seeing a man who is sticking by his personality, what he believes in, and maybe he's tweaking things very slightly to try and help the players and to try and sort of adapt to the club that he's at. But we're not seeing someone who has completely abandoned everything that we've seen from him in the past in favour of just trying to be, it's the players' fault. So Jose do it. I didn't get the players I wanted. How can I do that? How am I expected to win when I don't have a squad? Finishing second is one of the best achievements of my career. Maybe it was, looking back, but it doesn't feel as though, he was here for the long haul, and he proved that by leaving. Ten Hag, however, does speak a little bit differently. Let me know your thoughts on it. Like, Ten Hag, obviously he's not going to come out and say, I'm probably going to get sacked soon, aren't I? If I'm honest, we're awful, and I should probably get sacked. Obviously he's not going to say that, but do you like that he's sort of standing up, repeating these things? Good isn't good enough. I'm going to improve these players. The players are here. The players are fighting. The players are behind me. I personally like hearing that. Let's move on to our next story then. And this is about... We keep seeing these rumours of transfer outs, this, that and the other. The first one, obviously, we had a here we go on Donny van der Beek yesterday. He is going, confirmed, I say confirmed, Fabrizio Romano confirmed to Eintracht Frankfurt, I believe. He will be the first one out the window. But then there's also a report coming out of the Daily Mail today that Manchester United's 112 million pair, Casemiro and Raphael Varane, could be sold to free up funds, while Sancho will look to end his Old Trafford nightmare. But who else is on the club's chopping block heading into January? It's slightly unfair to phrase this as Sancho's nightmare, isn't it? Because he certainly played a part in this. A nightmare, you go to bed, oh no, I've had a bad dream. Oh well, it wasn't my fault. This is like, no, Jadon Sancho, yes, he's having a nightmare, but he willingly and purposefully ate 4 kilograms of cheese right before he went to sleep and had a nightmare. You know, we all know cheese causes nightmares. That's probably not true. That's probably just something from Wallace and Gromit. But that's you know what I mean? He's taking an active part in why this is a nightmare. You could say it's United's Sancho nightmare rather than Sancho's Old Trafford nightmare. However, the bigger fish, I think, in this one are Varane and Casemiro. Casemiro in particular, I know he's not started this season well and obviously now he's injured, but he's someone that seems to me that he should have a lot left in the tank. I know he's 31, but if you compare him to Varane, who's had injury problems in the past, who, you know, has retired from international football because he can't handle the workload, we haven't seen that from Casemiro. You know, I think Casemiro, it might just be as simple as last season, he played more games in a single year than he'd ever played in his life. It might just be as simple as he's knackered. He needed a longer break. Everyone talked about how demanding the pre-season was. Maybe Casemiro didn't recharge properly over the summer, a mixture of that with a couple of injuries that he sustained toward the back end of last season. And maybe he's actually just a bit knackered and he needs time to come back. And also, the difference with him and Varane at the moment is when Casemiro's fit, he plays. It would be strange to me for us to sell a player who is literally on our starting 11 when I haven't even heard a rumour of a centre defensive mid or even a holding midfielder that United have been linked with to replace him. Very interesting. But this is coming from the Mail Sport, and there's a great line in this. It says, as Mail Sport reported on Wednesday, after United's European exit, and after finishing 4th in the Champions League group, that has left a £28 million hole in the transfer budget, obviously money we thought we'd make that we now aren't. It says here, that figure is based on United reaching the quarterfinals, as they always budget for, right? And then I thought, hang on a sec. So we're basically, our FFP is that we say we're going to earn this much. Okay, based on what? Based on the fact that we think we're going to get to the quarterfinal of the Champions League. Do you know how many times Manchester United, and this is just what we always budget for, how many times in the last 11 years Manchester United have got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League? The answer is 2. 2 times in the last 11 years. So 9 out of those 11 years, we didn't make the quarterfinals. It was worse. Some of those years was the Europa League, as we know, and just 2 of the last 11 years we've got to the quarterfinals, and yet somehow we've got the audacity to have that as our always budgeted for round that we're going to go out. I mean, we barely make the Champions League, let alone the quarterfinals. I mean, I guess it's nice to be able to just sort of pretend you're going to get to the quarterfinals. However, financial fair play restrictions have restricted what United could spend last summer and precluded bids for £100 million plus players such as Harry Kane and Declan Rice. Next summer's budget is also contingent on revenue earned from playing in Europe. So this is very bad news for Manchester United, as I'm sure we are all aware. Interestingly, Jadon Sancho has been offered to Barcelona, according to a report in Spain. Essentially touted all around Europe, basically. It looks as though Rafael Varane may well be going in January as well, according to this. Should the club wish to recoup any of the $42 million that they spent on him 2 years ago, they'll need to cash in during the January window. That's because his contract runs out this summer, or next summer, should I say. But United have an optional extra year, so as soon as we activate that, he can't start talking to clubs in January, and we don't have to let him go in the summer. So I would assume United are going to activate that, even if they want to sell him, just to get a bit more money for him. Similarly, the former Real Madrid star Casemiro could be another which United look to shift during the window. Again, if you actually look at this article, it doesn't mention with any great detail where they may be going, who's actually after them. It seems as though, as we saw last summer, where there was a list, wasn't there? There was like 3 different categories, which is almost like a sort of video that we do, keep, sell, on the fence or whatever. United essentially had a list that was who we're keeping, right? Okay, yeah, of course. Then there was the ones that were actively trying to sell, such as Fred, such as who else was on that list? I think Donny van der Beek was on that list. And then there was the ones that, if we get an offer for them, we are willing to let them go. That was the likes of Jadon Sancho. That was the likes of Harry Maguire as well. People who, if they're here come, the start of the season, we're okay with that. But, come on, stick a 60 million bid in for Sancho and you can have him. It seems as though we're back on that, and Casemiro and Varane may well be in that bracket of, if we get a good offer, we won't turn it down. Because, in particular though, Casemiro, like I said, just worries me. Let me know your thoughts on that. Varane, it pains me to say it, but his injury record, the fact that he's not even first choice at the moment anyway, I can understand why he and the club would sort of be willing to part ways. Casemiro, though, as much as I like Kobbie Mainoo, he's too inexperienced to be leading that sort of midfield by himself. And all of the alternatives, Amrabat's looked better recently, but had a shaky start. McTominay is massively limited, as we all know. And after that, you're looking at Eriksen, who can only play 60 minutes. Mason Mount, who can barely play a single minute with his injury record this season. Letting Casemiro go would be a bad idea for me. Let's look at some ins then, or in particular, an in. Fikayo Tomori is one that's been mentioned. Obviously, now we're looking at a replacement potentially for Raphael Varane. This is according to Milan Web, reported in Manchester Evening News. Now, I don't know who Milan Web is. Is that someone related to former head of referees Howard Webb? You know, you tell me. But Milan Web seems to be some sort of blog / website based out of Milan, so I'm not certain of their reliability. However, they've linked Fikayo Tomori to Manchester United, looking around his value, around £34 million. You know what, right? I'm trying to think. When's the last time United signed a first team player for £34 million? Onana was 60. Even Varane was 42. Casemiro 60, Anthony 80, Højlund 70. There's no way we are getting him for 34 million. And not because I think he's this amazing player, I think he's a good player, but just as soon as United get involved, you could it starts with a 5 and we'll go from there. It's a 50, it's minimum 50 and then probably 60, 70, 80 depending on, you know, how desperate we are, where we are in the window, who's injured, who's about, with their ability to replace him. So this article puts his value at 34 million. I would be stunned if we could get him for that. And if we could, I think the last player we got for 34 million quid that actually starts games for Manchester United, I feel like I must be missing someone. I actually don't think I am. I mean, unless they're on a free like Eriksen, if we're paying fees for people, it's 40, 50 million to start with, isn't it? So interesting. It says there the Serie A giants are thought to be reluctant sellers. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Let me know your thoughts on this Fikayo Tomori story and all of the stories today. Would you let Casemiro go? Would you let Varane go? And do you like that Ten Hag is coming out swinging before this massive game tomorrow? Get your thoughts in the comments. I will be at the watch along with Jay Motti as well. So tune into that. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll see you in a bit.